Hello everyone, we'll be dealing with Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, and this topic is important both from prelims as well as mains perspective. So let's move on. First of all, why it is in news? The licenses of about 13 non-governmental organizations has been suspended by the Ministry of Home Affairs under the FCRA norms because they have not complied to the norms. Also, the Parliament of India has passed the FCRA Amendment Act 2020, which makes the FCRA registration norms much more stringent. Now let's see, what is FCRA? As the term suggests, it's an act that regulates the foreign donations as well as contributions. The Foreign Contribution Regulation Act was first brought into India by the Indira Gandhi government during emergency period in 1976. The aim of this act was to protect sovereignty of nation from foreign hands during a time when the world countries were indulged in Cold War. The law prohibited political parties, electoral candidates and even cartoonists from receiving foreign funds. The reason was that these were the people who either had power or the opportunity to influence the masses. So, if they received foreign funds, they might be used as agents or vehicles to spread foreign propagandas. This act was amended in 2010, making it mandatory for the registration of NGOs to be renewed every 5 years, and also it put a limit on administrative expenses from foreign funding as 50%. In 2015, the Ministry of Home Affairs notified new rules which mandated the NGOs to give an undertaking saying that the receiving of foreign funds would not affect the sovereignty and integrity of the country, friendly relations with other foreign countries, as well as it would not disrupt the communal harmony of the country. It also said that these NGOs will have to operate their accounts in either nationalized banks or privatized banks having core banking facilities so that the security agencies might be able to get access to it in a real-time basis. Now let's see who can receive foreign funding. All associations, NGOs and even groups who work for definite social, cultural, economic, educational and religious groups who has registered with the Ministry of Home Affairs, has maintained a separate account for receiving foreign funds, and those who files income tax returns annually and reports it to the ministry can receive foreign donation. Another way to receive foreign funding is to request for prior permission, and this prior permission is granted for a receipt against a specific donor for a specific amount, and this amount has to be utilized for specific purpose or activities. Now let's see who is debarred from receiving the foreign funding. As I've already said, the people with power or the people with opportunity to influence the masses are prohibited from receiving foreign funds. So this includes electoral candidates, members of the legislature, political parties, cartoonists, editors and publishers and even judges. When is the FCRA registrations cancelled or suspended? The MHA can inspect on the accounts of these institutions, that is NGOs who have the registration with FCRA, and when they inspect and if they find any adverse inputs or financial irregularities, then they can suspend this registration initially for 180 days and this can be extended to another 180 days. So this suspension would bring restriction on the functioning of NGOs. That is, they wouldn't be able to receive any fresh donations and also they wouldn't be able to use an amount more than 25% in their account for their functioning. The government can also suspend or cancel this registration if these NGOs or their activities violate the public interest or the security and integrity of nation. A recent example is when the Ministry of Home Affairs has suspended the Public Health Foundation of India's licenses, citing that they have been indulging in lobbying activities with the parliamentarians. But it was restored recently and they were added to the prior permission category. Now let's move on to the most important part of our topic, that is FCRA Amendment Act 2020. Let's see some of its key provisions. The first point is prohibition to accept foreign contribution. As I've already said, certain groups of people were prohibited from receiving foreign funds. Now the recent act has added the term public servants to this group. So the term public servant is defined under section 21 of Indian Penal Code. It says that a public servant is any person who is in pay or service of the government or is remunerated by the government for functioning certain public duties. Another provision is regarding the transfer of foreign contribution. Earlier, these NGOs or these organizations who had the registration with FCRA and who received foreign fundings were allowed to give this money to smaller NGOs, because these smaller NGOs might not be able to comply to the FCRA norms because it's much stringent, and maybe these organizations wouldn't be able to put forward proposals. So these bigger NGOs or bigger organizations used to help them, and this is called as subgranting. But according to the recent act, it puts a blanket ban on such activities, and only the organization that has received the money can utilize it. Another provision is the requirement of Aadhaar for registration. The NGOs must ensure that they have the details of Aadhaar of all the members in their governing body whenever they are going for registration or renewal of registration. Next provision is regarding the restriction in utilization of foreign funds. The government is given extra powers according to this act, and it can call upon summary inquiry and restrict the utilization of funds by any NGOs. It even can stop the utilization of funds granted by prior permission. If the fund is unutilized, the government can stop these NGOs from using it. The Act also mandates that the NGOs must maintain an FCRA account. That is, the foreign contributions can be received only in accounts designated by banks as FCRA accounts, and that too in branches of State Bank of India, Delhi. And in this account, no other funds other than the foreign funds can be received or transferred. So if the NGOs want to transfer this money, they can transfer it to other accounts. But when the foreign funds are received, they should be directly received to this FCRA account. Next provision is a reduction in foreign contribution for the administrative expenses. The Act reduces the administrative expenses through foreign contribution from 50% to 20%. Now let's see the significance of this amendment. First of all, it prevents misuse. That is, the annual inflow of foreign funds from 2010 to 2019 has almost doubled, but many NGOs have not utilized this fund for the same purpose. Next is the strengthening of national security. Many NGOs are not complying to the standards set by FCRA. That is, many NGOs are not maintaining proper FCRA accounts, they are not filing annual returns. So this in turn can affect the economic security of our nation, and these amounts can be utilized for many illegal activities such as terrorism. Another point is the transparency and accountability. The new bill making more stringent terms are actually enhancing the transparency. That is, these NGOs would be more accountable to the public as well as to the government. And this would also help non-governmental organizations which are genuinely working for the rural development or the growth of the country. So we actually saw why we needed this amendment. Now let's see the criticisms of this amendment. A 20% cap on administrative expenses is actually halting the internal capacity building of NGOs and also their functioning. Another aspect that we might understand is that the compliance rate according to Government of India's FCRA dashboard in filing annual returns is 97.6. This is actually comparatively a bigger rate. And even if this compliance rate is much more, the government is bringing more stringent norms. Another point is that the requirement of Aadhaar for verification and prohibiting public servants from receiving foreign funds is actually greater scrutiny, and this might halt or this might keep these experts from giving their expertise and skills to the sector, and the sector might lose the skills and expertise of these people. So NGOs have a great part in rural development and in the growth of our country. So we can see several examples, like even during the recent corona time and even during various floods and all, these NGOs were really helpful. But these expanded suspending of FCRA account might actually affect the ongoing projects. Many NGOs would have several projects, and many individuals belonging to the rural society and even the marginalized sections of societies are being benefited by the activities of NGOs. So halting this and halting their activities might actually affect the growth of our country. So that's it for today. Thank you.